Recently, I read a parenting book called Why French Children Don't Talk Back by Catherine Crawford, and I'm going to review this book today. Honestly, since I moved to the UK and started working in a school, I have found that I'm so into getting to know how children brought up multilingually and multiculturally shape their personalities and influence their learning journey. By the way, I wonder why there's always a comparison between American and French. With this interest, I started reading relevant books, journals, and research. If you're new here, I'm Rachelle, the UK boss mama. Born in Hong Kong, exchanged in France, moved to England, and grew up speaking 6 languages somehow makes me question who I am and where my roots are. This question becomes even more difficult as now I'm raising my son in a multicultural and multilingual household. We're influenced by both Asian and British cultures, and my son, who speaks better English than Cantonese and blends Asian and British traits, this 8-year-old boy's memories of Hong Kong has been fading out. As a parent fascinated by how culture shapes a child's personality and learning, I've been exploring literature on parenting and education. If this topic hits you, please click and subscribe to my channel, and let's get started. Between American and French, and possibly their lifestyles are too different from the food they eat and the values they have. I have to say I have no particular preference for either parenting styles, as I believe that both styles have their beauty and defects. As someone who grew up influenced by different cultures, I particularly think that we can look up to the beautiful parts and possibly drop the ones that you don't feel suitable or comfortable with. To be honest, although I'm not a fan of this author's writing style, I see some points mentioned by the author worth discussing. This book explores the differences in parenting styles between American and French family, focusing on why French children are often seen as more polite, independent, and well-behaved. Let's dive into the key themes of the book, and I'll expand them with research-backed insights and give you more detailed understanding. The first and possibly one of the key themes explored is the contrasting approach to praise and criticism between French and American or even British parenting styles. This book highlights how French parents generally avoid overpraising their children for routine tasks and instead focusing on fostering independence, resilience, and realistic self-assessment. Basically, to avoid overpraising, French parents tend to avoid showering their children with excessive praise for ordinary action or achievements such as finishing a meal or completing some basic schoolwork. This contrasts with American or often British parenting style, where children are praised more frequently to build self-esteem. So based on the overpraising issue, I found research by Carol Dweck, a psychologist known for her work on growth mindset, which supports the French approach. She found that when children are praised for their intelligence or talent, they may develop a fixed mindset, leading to a fear of failure and less resilience when faced with challenges. I recall that many Asian grandparents tend to praise their grandchild like 好叻仔, you're brilliant, 哇咁聰明嘅, you're so smart, for any tiny success. But the problem is, if children lose the game, they will be very grumpy immediately, which is certainly a reflection of a fear of failure or being not smart enough. So the author mentioned that the French parents also value efforts, but don't praise every small success. They prefer to acknowledge real accomplishment while encouraging children to persevere in challenging tasks. This helps the children build an internal sense of satisfaction rather than relying on external validation. French parenting tends to focus on preparing children for the reality of life, where not everything is praised and criticism is just a part of personal and professional development. By accepting constructive criticism, children become more resilient and capable of dealing with failure or rejection. So Drexworth shows that this helps children develop a healthier sense of self-worth, independence of outside approval, and therefore this French focus on praise only for significant achievement builds resilience, a quality that is essential for long-term success. Rather than extremes of either constant praise or harsh criticism, French parents maintain a balance. There's also a saying in Chinese which is called 赏罚分明. They believe in praising children for genuine accomplishments but don't shy away from correcting them when necessary. This balance fosters a realistic sense of achievement and helps children develop resilience and critical thinking skills. The French approach to praise and criticism helps children stay grounded and socially aware, and they grow up understanding that not every action deserves applause and that feedback, both positive and negative, is just part of learning and growth. In contrast, the book mentioned that American and British parents often focus on boosting self-esteem through frequent praise, which can lead to overconfidence or entitlement in some cases. Sometimes I would question, would positive parenting bring up a child with less resilience? This could be an essay to work on. Like Asian culture is even more extreme. There's a lot more criticism of children than praise. Like people in my generation or even earlier generation grew up being criticized all the time. If you do something good, you don't get praise because that's regarded as normal. So it's normal for you to be good. But if you've done something bad, you're dead. So we've been so used to being criticized. Again, there's no absolute right and wrong. It's truly an interesting topic to work on. In addition to the big topic of overpraising and criticism, another key point the author mentioned was about independence. The author said that the French children are encouraged to develop autonomy early. Parents don't hover over their children or micromanage their life. They trust their kids to handle themselves in various situations, from playing alone to contributing to household issues or even interacting with adults. French parents establish clear authority and set firm boundaries with their children. A real-life example includes the French not bothering to provide 4 kinds of snack choices for their children after school. This independence point is also discussed by bringing up the example of having a balance between adult and child-centered activities. French parents prioritize their own needs as adults alongside their children's, creating a balanced family dynamic. The child's desires don't dominate the household, and parents believe that a happy adult life contributes to a well-adjusted child. French children are taught to take responsibility for their actions from an early age. They are expected to clean up after themselves, complete tasks on their own, and understand the consequences of their behavior. Well, for this point, I would say that American and British parents also value independence, though often in different ways, such as fostering critical thinking and encouraging children to express their opinions freely. Independence to the Americans include the ability to make their own choices. This is why American parents tend to be more respectful of their children's opinions. I'm not saying that the French do not respect their children, but it's a totally different perspective. French independence, by contrast, tend to focus more on social norms, behavior in public, and responsibilities at home, helping children learn how to function within a structured society, while Americans encourage every individual to think and act out of the box with their own mindset without restrictions. That's why we can see there are so many pioneers developing different kind of new and creative technology in the USA. I would say both parenting methods are brilliant, and it's not always easy to make a balance. The third main point that the author mentioned was about meals, eating habits, and table manners. I cannot agree more. French family place a strong emphasis on structured meal times. They eat together as a family, and children are expected to try a variety of foods, helping them develop a mature palate and reduce picky eating. They eat what they are given, while snacks between meals are discouraged, and it certainly fosters a mature relationship with the food. In France, eating is seen as a social and educational experience. Children who eat regular meals with their families are more likely to consume healthier foods and have better social skills. By incorporating children into adult dining experience, French parents teach them to respect food, engage in conversation, and develop a mature palate. You know what? Sometimes I was stunned by how the British can manage to get their children to eat by 5 p.m. and go to bed by 7 p.m. Only when children eat separately from the adults can this be executed. Like in Hong Kong, children have dinner together with their parents, normally at 7 p.m., but then they go to bed a bit late, say before 9 p.m. You can say that there is a good or bad for this practice, but I tend to go So with the saying that if the kids can enjoy a proper meals with the adults, they tend to appreciate food more and be better with their table manners and social engagement. Meals and eating habits are just so important to the Chinese. A lot of rules on the table. I can even make a new video solely talking about the table manners for Chinese. What I don't like nowadays is that the Chinese always allow or even encourage children to eat while watching YouTube's video on tablet or mobile phones. Children eating more is always the first priority for all Chinese people. So they believe that if the kids are happy with the screen, which may probably make them eat more, they will allow it. They will even feed their children no matter if they are 1 year old or 10 years old. This is crazy, huh? But then, yes, I believe the appreciation for food is so valuable for French culture, and it can be traced back to their family traditions of sitting together for meals and enforcing rules about proper eating habits. The fourth point that the author made was about the social ethic. From a young age, French children are taught proper manners and social behavior, such as saying bonjour, merci, and making eye contact. These formalities are seen as important life skills that foster respect and courtesy in all social interactions. I think this may be related to the aspect of individualism. Americans are raised to be individuals, while in Europe and Asia, the family is a unit. I'm not saying that Americans and British people are rude or anything. On the contrary, most of the people I know are very gentle and nice. But I would say it's probably that they are rather cold to strangers. I remember that once my French teacher, who has been living in England for many years, mentioned to me that during her first year in the UK, she was so shocked by people in the UK not saying hello to strangers. This also happened a lot when she went into a small shop where people wouldn't even say hello or goodbye to others in the same shop. While in France, as I noticed when I was studying in Toulouse many years ago, people did have the habit of saying bonjour or au revoir to strangers. So talking about this point, I have to admit that Chinese and Asian are even colder to strangers, but they're super warm to people who are in their same bubbles, like family, neighborhood, or from the same hometown. In my opinion, I believe that Americans, British, French, or Asians all value respect and politeness. It's not about any particular culture, as I believe every culture values this. If a person is rude, they're rude. It's not related to their nationalities. To summarize, the author thinks that French parents value self-love rather than putting the child at the top above anything else. They are less anxious and compulsive with their kids. When they praise or criticize the children, they tend to be more direct, straightforward, and sometimes harsh. Being a straightforward parent is always better than spoiling the child. While for American and British parents, the author thinks that there may be more helicopter parents. They tend to be anxious about parenting, strive to be the best parents in the world, so children's joy is placed above everything else. This book also mentions materialism, which sometimes leads to spoiled children. I would say there's no absolutely correct way to raise your kids, but only the most suitable way. Parenting method can always be adjusted according to your personality as well as your children's personalities. In this world, with information being shared beyond borders, Americans can adopt French culture, while Chinese can adopt British methods, and they can always be mixed. As someone who has experienced multiple cultures, growing up in Hong Kong, studying in France for a short period of time, and now raising my child in England, I can relate to the complexity of balancing different parenting methods. The author's insight into French parenting reminds me of my own upbringing, which emphasizes respect, responsibility, and hard work. In contrast, my experience in the UK leans more towards fostering individuality and self-expression. I agree with the author that there are valuable lessons to be learned from each style. French parenting offers a refreshing perspective on maintaining disciplines and teaching resilience without hovering. American and British methods, on the other hand, emphasize creativity, self-esteem, and critical thinking. I believe that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to parenting. Instead, Combining the strengths of different cultures can create a more holistic and adaptable method for raising children. Well, I finished this book a couple of days before. I rated it 3 stars out of 5, though I wish it were more grounded in empirical research, although this is not my favorite because I found it a bit loose, quite subjective, and not very evidence-based. It has some good points to be taken away. Let me know if you have any comments about this book and other book recommendations, especially on multicultural and multilingual parenting and education. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more discussion on different culture, immigrations, and language learning. See you next time. Bye!